You are listening to the Dukes of Horror podcast. I am Screwloose, the filmmaker, main filmmaker of Screwloose Films, and I am joined by my sister, H.H. Duke. Introduce yourself, H.H.
I'm horror author H.H. Duke. Not sure what else there is to say, but yeah, that's me.
Felt kind of weird calling you H.H. Duke because I know you as Haley, so.
Yeah, you can call me Haley after the
Yep.
introduction.
Haley, my sister. So if you're new to the show, she's my sister, I'm her brother. So yeah, creative duo. Yeah.
Yep, that's why we're the Dukes of Hazard, or Dukes of Horror. Dang it.
I knew that's why you picked that name for this show, because of the Dukes of Horror, but yeah.
You mean the Dukes of Hazard?
Yeah, I knew it was a play on the Dukes of Hazard, why you wanted to call it the Dukes of Horror, so, whatever works.
Yeah,
All right, Haley.
That name is why this show exists, so.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Haley, so what have you been up to? Have you been doing any creepy, spooky stuff? Any creepy, spooky Christmas stuff?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, I just started reading a book this past week called Krampus, the Yule Lord.
Cool.
Sort of a callback to the last episode we did. It's pretty good. It's a fiction book. It's like horror fantasy. In it, like Krampus and Santa are rivals, and Krampus descends from Loki and Santa descends from Odin. So I haven't finished it yet, but it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Sounds like a different take.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
How about you?
And me? Well, yeah, I've been doing some creepy Christmas stuff too. I mean, mainly, I don't know, Shudder's dropped a lot of Christmas movies. I've been going through the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. And
Nice.
Joe Bob Briggs just had his Christmas special this past weekend, Joe Bob Ruins Christmas. So I watched that with a friend and had a good time. So yeah, for me, I'm the filmmaker, cinephile, so just watching some Christmas scary movies. Yeah.
Yep. We both seem to be on brand this week for what we're doing.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to kick it off with the folklore aspect of this movie. Today, I got the folklore. Haley got the movie that we watched that we'll discuss. But yeah, let's start it with some Christmas folklore. So, Haley, this guy on my shirt, Santa Claus. What if I were to tell you he is actually Satan?
You would probably just blow my mind. You told me you were going to be doing this, but I didn't really research anything, so I am a blank slate here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So, I mean, for these episodes, we each got to pick one of the like a Christmas folklore. So I was, going through the internet, Google, and trying to find, some different ones that I thought would be good. And I eventually, I came across this list I wrote my sources down on the website The Richest, and it was 15 urban myths you probably didn't know about. And the urban legend that I came across that was kind of interesting, or that made me think the most, was that, Santa Claus is supposed to actually be Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started researching into this more, and people basically believe that Santa Claus is Satan in disguise. And it's kind of evident in his, red outfit, his ability to fly, which I guess they say Satan can do too. He can fly if he wants to, rooftop to rooftop. Also, if you swap the letters in Satan around, or in Santa, I mean, Satan too. If you switch the letters around, you can spell Santa out of Satan or Satan out of Santa, which is kind of interesting. Also, his last Santa Claus, apparently in Old English, I was having a hard time verifying this, but the first article I read claimed that claws in Old English means hoof/claws. So you have, if the first name is Satan, then the last name is Claus. So Satan Claus, which is kind of creepy/interesting. And I did different research on it, and it made me start thinking about it, because I came across some Reddit threads and some Quora threads where it seems like the big part about this myth is, so it's not supposed to be literal, that because Santa Claus is, spoiler alert, if there are any kids in the room, please leave.
Cover
But,
their ears now.
yeah, but Santa Claus, is a um, fictitious character. So the reality behind it would be, the Santa Claus myth was actually put into effect. If you're a religious person and you believe in the devil, that the Santa Claus myth was actually put into effect by the devil, and he wanted to, basically, he hides some of himself in the Santa Claus character, like the red, and that you could spell Satan out of his first name and whatever. And I'm like, that makes me think, and that's kind of interesting because a lot of these Quora threads and Reddit threads that I went into, it was a lot of like religious people basically saying how they believed that, you know, um, Santa is kind of taken away from the true religious spirit of Christmas.
Mhm.
And it's something I kind of noticed. I mean, do you notice that like a lot of people, a lot of people are more into the gifts and the stuff than actually, the whole religious aspect of it? Because I can't remember the last time we've gone to a Christmas Eve or Christmas Day church service. It's usually just about getting together with friends and exchanging gifts and stuff like that, watching Christmas movies. What do
That's
you
for
think about
sure.
that? What do you think about that after I say all
Uh,
that to you, Haley?
you mean of the whole like Santa Satan thing?
Yeah.
Well, it does seem like very puritanical. Like I feel like the Puritans, like in The Witch or whatever, they would always think like everything good, everything fun, like was Satan. And then
Yeah.
or like, the devil trying to tempt you away from God. And then
Yeah.
I was thinking that, and then I started thinking about the water boy,
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Boucher's mama. That
Yeah.
girl is the devil.
Yeah.
Santa is the devil.
Yeah.
So
I get
yeah,
you.
definitely.
Well, it seems like you're coming from a point of view that, um, obviously these religious people, yeah, they just see the fun as, Satan. However, the more I thought about it, I'm like, it does kind of make sense, and especially because, Santa Claus is based on Saint Nick, and that means at some point the devil had to have acknowledged it and then made the switch. And so, the original Saint Nick, he wore green, right? The Turkish saint.
He might have. I'm not really sure on that. That sounds right. Like red might
Well,
have been added later.
he wore green, and eventually they say the Coca-Cola company, this is a Coca-Cola shirt, is the reason why Santa Claus eventually started wearing red. However, the devil could have been behind it.
You
That's
think the
kind of what
devil's
I'm saying.
taking ad money from the Coca-Cola company?
Hey Haley, I want to believe. No, I'm guessing that the
I'm just
devil's
kidding.
probably. No, I'm guessing the devil is probably. And like again, I'm playing into the theory. I'm not saying I necessarily believe this stuff, but it seems like you definitely went for the side of the, oh, religious people just don't like fun, where I'm gonna lean into the myth. I want to believe. So no, I guess since the devil is not supposed to be as powerful as God, but just under it, I would assume he has the ability to, I don't know, probably influence the Coca-Cola people, or maybe that was just his vehicle to start making Santa Claus wear red. So he was like, yeah, I'm the devil. I like red. So no more green, make it red. Let's blackmail some, you watch Lucifer, or maybe you haven't watched Lucifer.
No, I haven't
You've
watched
seen like,
Lucifer.
you've seen like, what is it? The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves. Have you seen
Mm-mm.
that one? Do you
Mm-mm.
watch any devil movies? Gee whiz, Haley. But basically, he has a lot of power and he sits in the background. He sits in the background and just kind of like, I don't know, manipulates people. And he like manipulates, blackmails, and he has a lot of power and threatens them. I'm guessing that's what happened with the Coca-Cola people. And that was step one. But have you noticed, Haley, there is kind of a trajectory where it used to be like Christmas was very religious, but it seems like it's been dipping. And the Santa Claus thing, the commercial aspect of it was kind of down here, but now it's like, so it's going upwards and taking out the religion. That's why I could see this theory being true.
I dig it. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that was my thought about it. However, from that article I was reading, one of the things they said at the end was that, so one of their pieces of evidence was the whole thing about Santa Claus. How, if you swap around the Santa, that's part still stands. The Santa, you can also spell Satan out of it. However, the whole Klaus part, so basically they go into say eventually like Santa Claus is derived from the Dutch version of his name, Sinterklaas.
Hmm.
So basically they took Sinterklaas and made Santa Claus out of it. So they're just kind of like, yeah, it's mainly just kind of, it's an odd coincidence, that eventually the name went from Sinterklaas to Santa Claus. I mean, the Santa Claus, again, still makes sense. Santa, you can spell Satan out of it. Satan, you can spell Santa out of it. But the whole Klaus part, it was never meant to be, because again, you need the Old English definition for the Klaus part to be claws, like
Hmm.
the Klaus part to be like claws. Um, so basically, they're just like, yeah, it's just kind of a coincidence. So there's no really back into it.
Hmm.
However, I still believe, or I want to believe. Again, I'm just being kind of devil's advocate, pun intended.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and who knows, the devil might be able to make these little details, like the origin of the name. He might be able to manipulate that a little bit to give details that could put a little doubt into people's minds.
Well, yeah, I mean, like how some skeptics can always like find the skeptical side of it. If I wanted to keep pushing, yeah, you could probably be like, all right, Satan was like, Sinterklaas, if we get them to change it around to Santa Claus, my name can be in it. So same thing as manipulating the Coca-Cola people. He
For
knew what he was
sure.
doing. Yeah.
I like
I
it.
don't know. Did you do any research into it?
Not really. I was at work today and I was like Googling it. And then I was like, I'm sitting here in the library with all these kids around looking at like websites about Santa and Satan. And then I was like, no, I shouldn't be doing this. So I stopped.
Yeah. But I guess you could have hid your screen, but I would have been like, it just doesn't feel right to be doing this next to all these kids.
That's how I
So
was feeling.
yeah, I guess that's kind of how I would go about it. But I don't know. Other than this article, yeah, there wasn't a lot of, yeah, I couldn't find a lot of stuff that talked in depth about it. Again, a lot of it was this one article from, again, The Richest and 15 Urban Myths you probably didn't know about Christmas. And then again, a lot of Reddit and Quora threads where it seemed like some people who were a little overly religious were arguing about how, um, yeah, Santa could be I don't know, Santa could be something derived by the devil to take, the point of Christmas off of the point of Christmas, which is supposed to be about celebrating the birth of Jesus. So I'm like, well, some of these people seemed a little irrational in their arguments behind it, like a little, I don't
No.
know, like they couldn't see. Again, this will be me kind of coming back to not being devil's advocate anymore, but coming back to form, and that you know you should be able to see that, like, Santa Claus and gift giving, it's supposed to be positives added to Christmas. And yes, although it does pull away from some of the true meanings of Christmas, I don't see it as the total negative that you could just be like, all right, it must be Satan.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's just my point of view.
So I was thinking while you were talking, like, what would Satan's motivation be to be giving gifts out to kids? And
Yeah.
as I was thinking, I thought maybe he's like, these are his bribes, like when you meet the devil at the crossroads, he gives you something, but then you have to like, give him your soul in 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe he's like doing this to get everyone's soul.
That's possible, but I do believe that you have to know what you're agreeing to. Like, he would have to reveal himself and be like, I'm actually the devil, and this gift is part of a bargain for like your soul or whatever. Um, I still lean back into that. It's you know, because do you remember the time we went to the Christmas Eve service in Eau Claire, and the pastor, I won't say his name because I don't know, he was a he was a nice guy, all things considered, but he did
Mhm.
this like gloom and doom Christmas Eve sermon where he was talked about this little boy who it's his birthday and he's all alone and everyone's giving each other gifts, except him, and he's like, what about me? And then he like looked down at everybody and he's just like, that's Jesus.
I remember that. Yeah, that was man, it's crazy that made an impression on both of us. But yeah,
Yeah.
that made me feel bad as a child that I was looking forward to getting Christmas presents.
But I got his point, which is like, at least for the kids, and I'm guessing adults too, because I'm like, we're adults at this point, and you're excited for when you get to exchange gifts on Christmas. But yeah, you're probably in Christmas Eve service and you're thinking about, getting home for gifts and stuff. Because I always remember that, because I'm like, Christmas Eve service was fun and fine, but it was like eventually you're going to get home, and a lot of time there was like we'd do pizza on Christmas Eve at Aunt Terry's, and you'd get like one gift. Eventually, that one gift devolved into us giving all of our gifts on Christmas Eve for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think after we aged out of the whole Santa thing, and also because
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad separated, so we'd probably be with like dad on Christmas Eve, so we would exchange gifts with him, and then meet mom the next day, and I guess kind of like make each day special for each parent. But yes, while you were at church, you were um, very interested in getting home for the pizza and the family and the gifts, and there'd be Christmas sweets and treats and stuff like that. So I don't know. I can see I could see it being a devil's smokescreen to blind you about the true meaning of Christmas.
For sure. But back to the thing about the little kid not getting any presents on his birthday. I don't know. I feel like everyone remembers Jesus like this far into the future, and the reason we're celebrating is because of him. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I like he's not here. We can't like physically give him gifts or anything. So I mean,
yeah,
obviously, but we still remember him. So I don't know. Maybe we don't really have that much to feel bad about in that
yeah,
department. You know?
yeah. I agree. I agree. However, Pastor, I almost said his name. I'm glad I didn't.
Just call him
he's
Pastor
like
T. Pastor T.
he's like your thoughts, and I don't know. Yeah, essentially, you thinking about Jesus is the gift, so you shouldn't be thinking about Christmas presents. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I had fun researching that folklore. I mean, that's kind of the end of it. It's not as definitely not as like dense as what we did last week with the Krampus, but I don't know. I had fun. Like I was in a bar with Sam the other. We were supposed to be watching football, and I don't know how we landed on. I was going to talk about Santa being Satan for our podcast, but there I am, and I'd probably been like, I don't know, 4 or 5 beers deep. Football, like everyone around me is watching football, and I'm just explaining to Sam, like eyes really big and probably crazy about how it could be possible. And so I think he enjoyed it because he did lean into. He was like, I can see it. He's like, I can see it. So yeah, I don't know. It was fun. Good topic to go over.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was fun. I like that.
Oh yeah. Now it's your turn, Haley. Now we're
Well,
gonna get into the
before we
movie.
go into the movie, so kind of back into the Santa thing. Last week I mentioned like the actual legend of like the Saint Nick of him bringing like children back to life.
Yeah.
So I like looked into it after we finished the podcast, and what I said was basically true. There was like a butcher who killed 3 children, and he chopped them up, and he put them into barrels of salt, not pickling barrels, but still like preservation barrels, and they were in there for 7 years, and then 7 years later, Saint Nicholas found them and brought them back to life. So,
Sure.
yep, that's one of the miracles of Saint Nicholas.
7 years later,
Yep.
they came back all intact, not all zombied out.
They did not describe them, so it's possible.
All zombied out like the zombies in our movie.
Oh yeah, nice segue.
I was
All
trying to find a
right.
way to make it smooth. Yeah.
Hey, the only way to segue is to point out the segue. It's like a rule.
I learned that from Bo Burnham. Yes. Segways, they're weird. So, boom.
All right, so I am super excited to talk about our movie this week.
No. Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, we're talking about a zombie movie. We're going to talk about
A Christmas zombie movie.
yes, a Christmas comedy musical zombie movie, Anna and the Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited. Okay. So Anna and the Apocalypse premiered in 2017 at the Fantastic Fest. It's a Scottish movie. As I said, it's a zombie Christmas musical. And the tagline they gave it was "The Dawn of the Dead meets La La Land."
Sure.
And here's the description from Wikipedia. A zombie apocalypse threatens the sleepy town of Little Haven at Christmas, forcing Anna and her friends to fight, slash, and sing their way to survival, facing the undead in a desperate race to reach their loved ones. But they soon discover that no one is safe in this new world, and with civilization falling apart around them, the only people they can truly rely on are each other. All right, so this movie came out in 2017, and it was released in the US the next year in 2018. So that's when I first saw it. I checked it out from the library because they had a copy. Like when you watched this movie for this podcast, right?
Yes. I remember you brought it up last Christmas. You wanted to watch some Christmas horror movies, and it was either Anna and the Apocalypse or is it You Better Watch Out? Is
Better
that the
Watch
name of
Out,
the movie?
yeah.
Better Watch Out.
Better Watch Out.
So when you brought it up again this year, I'm like, all right, Haley must really like it. So
yeah, I've been trying to get you to watch this movie. And like when we were talking about the movies we wanted to watch this month, I kind of forgot this movie a little bit, and I just remembered I liked it and that it was good and it was something different. But when I watched it like this time, like I love this movie. Like this honestly might be like right now, this might be my favorite movie. And
for sure.
I like
of
it
all
so
time?
much.
All time?
I don't know. I have a hard time picking like my favorite of all time, but it's up there. Like
Sure.
This movie gives me the feels. Like
Okay.
we were like, so I was waiting for you to join the call, and I was just watching like the music videos from this, like clips on YouTube. And like I was trying to look at my notes, but I just couldn't stop watching them. They're all just so good.
Sure.
All right. So Anna and the Apocalypse was directed by John McPhail, and it was written by Alan McDonald and Brian McHenry. And it's based on a short film called Zombie Musical. Did you by chance watch that?
Zombie Musical?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-uh.
If you didn't, that's okay.
Is that another movie or a show?
It's a short movie that Alan McDonald and Brian McHenry made before they made this. I think
so like a proof of concept type thing. They shot a short film that they were intending to be like, this is basically what we're going to make Anna and the Apocalypse as. Is that what they did?
Well, they made the zombie musical, and I think they were just intending it to be like just that, but then they made it and they were like, oh, this is so good, we have to make it into a feature-length film.
Okay.
I watched it tonight. It was good. It was different than Anna and the Apocalypse. There was a little bit of comedy in it, but it was definitely more horror. Sure. It was very dark. There was like one scene that was very, very dark.
Sure.
Had to do with like sexual assault. And you would probably like it. It was good. Like you could tell they had like no budget. There was one shot where like a zombie was supposed to have no arms, and they had the actor just have his arms like in his shirt, but you could like see his hands like sticking out.
They put him up front. You got to put him around back.
So like they did two, they had like one of him coming, like running forward like this, and he had his hands behind him. And then like they did one where they shot him from the back with his hands in front, but he like turned, and you could just, maybe they meant to cut it or something, but they had to use it or something. But yeah, it was good. Yeah. Like you should watch it. I think you would like it.
Might have to fire the editor at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they were getting paid for it. I think they were just like, making it for fun. And so Anna and the Apocalypse, it was inspired by High School Musical, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Once More with Feeling, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical episode.
Okay.
And I feel like you can really see the Once More with Feeling influence in this, especially, I'll talk about it later, but especially in one song towards the end.
Sure.
And then I didn't know this when I first watched this, but I watched a sort of behind the scenes documentary. So Ryan McHenry, right? He was one of the writers. He was actually diagnosed with bone cancer, and he died halfway through production.
Wow.
before he died, he told the production team that he wanted the movie to be made like even after he died. And I
Okay.
guess he went like very quick, like it was a matter of months.
Sure.
And he tried to return to making the movie, but he slipped away so fast that he wasn't able to be there when it was finished. Or even like when they were filming it, I think he was gone. And I have this quote from that documentary. It's from his friend and producer of the movie, Nason Alekaru. Okay, so it's in some ways it gave the project a lot more meaning because the film had always been about what it means to be young in a violent world and what it means for the young to survive in a violent world left behind by their parents. But it took on a much more personal meaning at that point on what it means for young people to deal with personal tragedy. And I think like that, that tragedy aspect really comes through in the final movie. And it might be like why it's so, I don't know, it's just so like heartfelt, I feel.
I could see that because I don't know, the final group who ends up surviving was kind of not who you expected, not necessarily who you wanted.
Mhm.
There's a point early in the movie where I was kind of like, man, they're not going to kill anybody in this movie, and was I wrong? Because then everyone starts dropping towards the
Right.
end of the movie. So yeah, spoiler alert, but we're talking spoilers. So yeah,
They are pretty brutal on who they kill. Like, and they
I
killed
was
some
upset when
people.
they killed Chris because he was my favorite, kind of like
Mhm.
the awkward funny guy. Everyone loves the awkward funny guy, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But at least he got like, we'll get into it more later, but at least they had sort of a bittersweet ending, him and Lisa.
yeah. Well, I could see in the the people who end up surviving in the end, it's Anna, Steph, and then the bully who you would think I think they did a good job about making it unexpected and leaning into like reality and tragedy in that yeah, the bully who you're like in a normal movie, that guy would probably die. Of all the people who ended up dying and that guy survives, you're kind of just like, yeah, that's unusual in
Hmm.
comparison to, what you kind of think was going to happen, or since it's being a written thing, what you imagine the audience would actually want to see. So I can see that tragedy aspect. And yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
you just can't see it coming. So
I do think they did a really good job, even though Nick is like a bully and you're not really supposed to like him very much. Like they do make him very sympathetic. You
towards
hear,
towards the end, towards the end, they make they take characters who you don't think you're gonna like. Well, mainly just him, and then he has a character arc basically. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Well, since we're talking about characters, I'll quickly go through our cast and the actors who play them. So we have Anna Shepherd, who's Anna, the title character, is played by Ella Hunt. She was also in Les Miserables in 2012. I don't know what character she played, but I'm assuming
okay,
one of the kids. John, John is played by Malcolm Cumming. He's the love interest slash best friend. Not really the love interest. They kind of started off
oh
like
yeah.
that, but
Well, she friend zones him. I was like, oh, burn.
yes.
She's like, John, you're my best friend. And he's like, yeah, I know. And she's like, John, you're my best friend. And I'm like, ha.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That
that
scene
away,
was
Anna.
so harsh.
She almost made me dislike her at that point.
Yeah, well, it happens.
Yeah.
All
Who's
right.
next?
Steph North, she's played by Sarah Swire. And she's like probably my favorite character. I just like the awkward things she does, like her little awkward mannerisms. I just think it's so funny. And she's also the choreographer for this whole
Yeah.
movie. And I think that also really comes through like in like her rhythmic kind of movement that she does. But all right. And then
Well,
Chris,
she's pretty cool, but she's the reason why my favorite character, Chris, dies because she's in the principal's office and drops the vibrating pink dildo, causing the zombies
yeah, that
to
was
swarm
stupid.
her.
That was stupid.
Well, I think it
Like
made sense. I just like that's called Boba Fetting a character because then Chris and what was the name of his girlfriend?
Lisa.
Lisa. Okay, I remember that. So they have to make a distraction that basically their distraction sacrifices themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the sacrifice themselves part is not an issue. It's that it was over a pink vibrating dildo.
Yeah,
That's
like
the Boba Fetted aspect of it. Do you know what Boba Fetted is, Haley?
I have never heard that term. No.
It's when a cool character is killed in a stupid way, because in the original Star Wars, Boba Fett was killed in a stupid way, so it's called being Boba Fetted. But they Boba Fetted Chris with a pink vibrating dildo.
Yep. I learned something new. Boba Fetting.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah, I don't like that. Like, she knows the stakes, right? Like, why would she drop that thing like that? But I guess the plot's gotta move somehow. But
Yeah.
all right, so now your favorite character, Chris Wise, is played by Christopher Laveau, and Lisa, who doesn't get a last name, is played by Marley Sue.
Sure.
And you know what I noticed? Like, I don't think you really see the names very much, like the last names, especially while you're watching this movie. But a lot of them are like sort of Christmassy in nature. So you have like Anna Shepherd, the
Sure.
Shepherds. You have Chris Wise, like the Wise Men. Steph North.
Yeah.
There were some others, but I didn't write any of them down. If I think of them, I'll point them out while we're talking. But
yeah, they're trying to lean into that stuff because the principal's name is Savage, and eventually they just start calling him Savage. So when he kind of becomes a savage, you get it. You get what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, and then Nick is played by Ben Wiggins. He's the bad boy heartthrob. He's kind of the romantic interest for Anna, though I think they kind of ended it like ambiguously. Like, they don't really, like, the show didn't really want her to end up with anybody. She's just supposed to go chase her dreams, I suppose.
Yep.
And then Mr. Savage is played by Paul Kaye.
That guy sounded like Yazoo. I was trying to figure out who he sounded like. I thought he sounded like Yazoo from The Lion King when he was singing, because he would like drop into this like kind of creepy dialect or delivery, how he was like delivering his lyrics. And I'm just like, it's either Zazu or he sounded like Scar for some reason. I think it was Zazu, because Zazu kind of sounds a little bit more high pitched and gangly in his voice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. That's spot on. He does.
Mm-hmm.
He has like
I looked him up to make sure I didn't know his voice from something else, but I didn't know any of his filmography. But I'm just like, yeah, it reminds me of Zazu. So yeah.
Well, he was in Game of Thrones, actually. He was Thoros of More, which he must have been a smaller character, because I didn't recognize him. I even looked up a picture, but
I'm trying to think if he's who I think he is. I thought he was the guy who, there was a guy who, I thought there's this one guy who he had the flaming sword, and he would almost never die, because if he did get struck down, that actor who plays Principal Savage would come and wake him. He had the ability to resurrect him. And so I think that's who it was. So that's kind of crazy. I'll have to look into that, though.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I didn't recognize the picture of him at all. But there's so many characters in Game of Thrones. He could definitely be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked like the weaselly, unhinged quality that the actor brought to this character.
Yep.
Which is funny because
because go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Like, I know, so like in a zombie movie like this, like, you need that sort of like human villain to make it feel like more real, I guess. But other, like, I feel like, except for like the amazing performance that the actor did, there really wasn't much point to Principal, or I guess he's Mr. Savage or Headmaster Savage or something.
Well, he's supposed to lead for the the climactic battle at the end, because the issue with most zombie movies is the zombies almost never end up being the villain. The people are the villains. And so it's what I noticed about Principal Savage was, you would think that the reason he acts crazy at the end is because of the zombies, but in reality, which I noted, that's just who he really was.
Mm-hmm.
Like most other zombie shows, when like the humans start getting crazy after the zombie apocalypse, it's because the zombies, and maybe it brings their true nature out, but they're usually, at least the show tries to say, well, they have had a break from reality. I don't think, had a break from reality. I think he wanted to do this all along, and the movie just gave him the zombie apocalypse just basically gave him a chance to act on how he really was. So, but yeah, I mean, most zombie movies, the zombies never end up being the true villain because they really don't have any motive except
Right.
basically just following their human nature. So Savage lent himself to that at the end, where people wouldn't listen to him, they wouldn't follow the rules because, basically his worst fear is probably the zombie apocalypse, because that's when rules fly out the window. So when he starts kind of going all homicidal, it's because he's trying to hold on to his structure, basically.
Right.
hmm
Very power hungry.
And I noticed how, so you noticed at the beginning of the movie when they're doing the school play, and somebody like kicks that rope and the star swings out and he like misses it. I like the callback at the end where he gets, he gets dealt with because the callback, Anna pulls the rope, or she like cuts the rope, and then the star swings out and knocks him into the crowd of zombies. And the shot, he's like upside down cross, like Antichrist thing, as the zombies yank him down into the crowd of zombies. So, yeah, they're throwing some symbolism in this movie. There's probably more that I didn't notice, but yeah, I noticed the blatant stuff for sure. So, and the callbacks.
Yeah, Chekhov's theater prop.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last actor is Mark Benton, who played Tony Shepard, Anna's dad.
Okay.
And he, in the final cut of the movie, probably the one you watched and the one I watched first, he didn't really have that much of a role. In like the festival cut, he actually sang a lot more, and was in, like, he had more lines and stuff, but I think they cut him because I don't think he was a very good singer. They had to auto-tune him a lot.
Okay. Well, that's on the casting director.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because every other actor, and like he was a good actor, like don't get me wrong, he's a good actor. Singing was a little iffy, probably compared to everyone else, because every other person who was cast in this like was so on point. They were so well cast.
Sure.
We're all so talented. All right, so let's get into a little bit of a rundown of the movie. So the opening scene, Tony, the dad, is driving Anna and John to school, and John accidentally reveals that Anna is planning to travel for a year rather than go to university. And so we get basically Anna's motivation that she wants to leave and go see the world. And they get into a fight. And then we go to school and we meet all of our, characters. Steph, we established that her parents went to Mexico and left her alone, and that her girlfriend won't spend Christmas with her. We're introduced to Mr. Savage, who is immediately like vetoing Steph's editorial on homelessness that she wants to run, and taking her car keys, which just seems crazy to me that they can just take her car keys.
He's the tyrant of the school. I mean, that's kind of what I wrote down about him, tyrant of the school. So.
And we also learn that he, as you say, is the tyrant. He's excited because he will become headmaster when Headmaster Gill retires, who's the current headmaster of the school. And then we also get this great line where Principal Savage is walking, and like there's a couple kissing in front of him, and he just walks right through him, and he goes, "Withdraw your tongues." He has a lot of great lines. And then after that, we get into our first song, "Breakaway." And the song basically just reinforces what everyone wants. It's the I want song.
Sure. So, yeah, that was my favorite song in the movie. I wanted to cut in and make sure I got that in. Breakaway was good. I think we'll come up to my next favorite song. So yeah, Breakaway was the one I wrote down as I put Breakaway equals good song. That was my note.
Nice. I also really like Breakaway. It's so good.
It's on Spotify. Yeah.
It's on Spotify?
Well, I'm sure it is. I'll probably look it up after this,
Yeah, I want to like get this album and just like play it all the time. I just, this song does this. And I think one of the things I really like about this movie is I would say 50-60% of the songs are all like total ensemble songs. Like every character is singing in them. And I don't know, I just feel like it gives such a good dynamic.
Yeah.
I love it. Yep. So it just reinforces Anna wants to leave, John wants to be with Anna, and Steph wants to be a journalist. And then we get to the holiday talent show rehearsal where they're rehearsing the fish rap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that song, but we'll get to that later. And so this just introduces, one of the sets, the auditorium, one of the important sets in the movie. We meet Lisa, who is Chris's girlfriend, and she will be performing a song at the play. They kind of call it a play, but it's more like a talent show. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. And then you just have Mr. Savage there, and I just wrote he's being a tyrannical asshole. So one thing I really like about this movie is like the sets. Everything is so Christmassy.
Sure.
And I was actually thinking like I kind of played a trick in picking this movie because even though like the sets are so Christmassy, like everyone's wearing Christmas sweaters, you've got like Santa zombies and Frosty zombies walking around. It's not really does it feel like a Christmas movie to you?
I guess one of my negative thoughts at one time was I feel like they added the Christmas element to add some color to it. So I'm like, I don't know if the original script was meant to be a Christmas movie because I'm like, now there's not a lot of, I didn't see a lot of Christmas stuff going on other than like the set decorations and stuff. But maybe that was just me. I don't know.
No, I thought so too. Like it's weird because it does have like such a Christmassy atmosphere. But if you like set it at a different time of year, like if you set it like at prom or something, it would work just as well, like without the Christmas aspect. And it might actually like make more sense, if Anna's wanting to leave and all that. And, everyone's worried about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I think the Anna leaving aspect works no matter what. I mean, I think if you, doing it at another time like prom, but I think you need that wrapping. If there's no like significant thing or texture going on, like you could do this movie at Halloween, it would also work. I mean, that was kind of why people think the movie Halloween is so good. Like they think if it weren't taking place at Halloween, that Halloween would have been kind of forgettable, even though Michael Myers is iconic. They're like, I think it was even John Carpenter who basically said it was his idea to make it during Halloween, but basically the Halloween aspect added that texture and flavor. Where I think if this movie, if you didn't have it during Christmas, or like you said, you could do it during prom or something like that going on, it probably would have felt a little bit more like a just generic zombie movie. You know what I mean? So it's probably good that they did it because it would set the movie apart from your generic zombie movie.
For sure, because it is like very generic in all of the zombie aspects. Like they don't even explain anything. You're just supposed to like know like how the zombies work. Like if you get bit, you turn into one, and if you hit them in the head, they die. They never really explain that, which is fine. We don't need to waste time on that. But
we also got to take what I just said with a grain of salt. Where like Night of the Living Dead is one of my favorite movies, not just one of my favorite horror movies or zombie movies, but that movie, that doesn't have anything unique going on, like texture wise. Like it's not taking place during Christmas, but it's like it's the environment that Night of the Living Dead. You're in a cemetery, then you end up in a small farmhouse out in this, like that's how they added texture. However, I think that would have been harder with something like a zombie movie that's just taking place in a high school, because a high school is going to look like a high school and doesn't have like always great flavor to it. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Was Night of the Living Dead one of the first zombie movies, or was it the first one?
So it's credited as being basically the first modern zombie movie where it's dead bodies reanimated. Before that, the concept of the zombie was like witch doctors and stuff they would zombify people, or basically a witch doctor would. It's a mind manipulation, like kind of. Yeah, you lock the person away and they're just a mindless zombie. That was how zombies used to be, but George Romero made Night of the Living Dead and he decided reanimated bodies. And he just called them ghouls. He didn't necessarily think they were zombies, but that was what the modern day zombie is believed to have rolled out of. Well, not believed, is considered to have rolled out of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So moving on. Then we get to my favorite song. It might be your favorite song too, but it's my favorite. No Such Thing as a Hollywood Ending.
That's a good one. That's my number 3. Yeah.
Number 3. Okay. So again, like it's this whole ensemble piece. I don't, I think if I had to pick a song strictly just on the music, I'd probably pick Breakaway as my first one. But if I'm like watching the scene, this is definitely my favorite because this has like such good choreography. You have the entire lunchroom dancing. There's people doing flips. You've got, people singing different parts and like they're dancing according to their part while other people over here are dancing to their part. And I don't know, it's just so good. It's so good.
Yeah, good song. I dig it.
Like almost every song in this movie, at least all the serious songs in this movie are like absolute bops. They're so good.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get to the actual talent show, like what everyone was rehearsing for earlier. And we get like the final product of the fish wrap. Ugh, I don't like it. I know it's a joke, but
yeah.
You get Lisa singing "It's That Time of Year," like the dirtiest Christmas song I have ever heard that she sings in front of her boyfriend's grandmother.
Yeah.
Who she knew was coming.
That was kind of it wasn't strange, but it was kind of like, oh, it's a little strange for what it's supposed to be. So, because I mean, then they have all the ripped guys out there in their Santa hats, but no shirts and Santa pants. And I'm just like, what is going on?
Right. Yeah. I love the part where like Lisa's looking out into the audience and the grandma is just like and it's like, okay, this grandma either cannot hear what she's saying or is like totally supportive of her grandson's sex life. There's only 2 options.
I thought it was weird, like, because if she's singing that because of her boyfriend, like, what's with all the like the ripped dudes out there shirtless? I'm like, yeah, how is this for your boyfriend? But I don't know, whatever works.
Just background dancers. I could have all this, but I chose you.
Apparently, I guess.
We also get like a really good shot while this is happening. So Mr. Savage like realizes what she's singing and what she's singing about. So he's like going to go down and yell at her, pull her off the stage or something. But then you hear something like knocking on the door, like scratching to get in. And he opens up the door and you just see like the glow from Christmas lights and then ashes just falling. And it's such a good shot.
Is it ashes or is it snow?
I think it's ashes. Or maybe it's snow and ashes. Things are burning because of the zombies.
Really? I missed that.
Yeah, like there's scenes later where they show like a not a panorama, but like a distant shot of the city and there's like fires and stuff.
Okay.
All
right. Guess I got to go back and rewatch it. Rewatchable movies. That's what it's about.
I'm going to watch this every year. Like, I'm so glad we picked this movie because I just rediscovered a gem. Okay. And while this talent show is going on, we have Anna and John, and they are working at a bowling alley because, Anna's got to pay for her ticket to Australia. And then they walk home, like after cleaning up and everything, and they share a touching moment where they discuss Anna's dream of traveling. And I think at this point, like Chris starts to feel a little bit hopeful that she's like actually going to return his feelings. But as we discussed earlier, that's not what happens.
Nope. Friend zone.
He is in the friend zone, but like their relationship.
Friend zone.
He isn't. What's wrong with being in the friend zone? Their relationship is so like sweet and good.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a guy thing, but being in a friend zone when you want to be with the gal ain't too happy. Or ain't too good. I don't know why I said happy. Ain't too good. Or doesn't feel too good.
I get it. Like if you want to be with someone, it can hurt, but friendships are important too.
And also, yeah, I don't know. Yep, they are.
All So we introduced the bowling alley, which is another one of our major scenes or major settings, I should say. So the next morning, Anna wakes up. Her dad hasn't come home yet from the talent show where he was, helping Mr. Savage run the lights. And then we get like another really great scene in the movie, which is the song Turning My Life Around, where Anna and John, is it John? Yeah, Anna and John are just like dancing down the street, like totally oblivious, singing like this super upbeat song with headphones in their ears as smoke and debris and people fighting and being eaten are just like happening behind them.
Yep.
This is actually a scene that was in the original zombie musical, but they definitely do it better in Anna and the Apocalypse.
Sure.
So, and then they like meet up in the cemetery, and we encounter the snowman zombie. What did you think of the snowman zombie, John?
He was creepy. When he died, I'm like, all right, this movie's got some gore, because this movie isn't actually very scary, like at all, but did have, so she, decapitates the snowman zombie with the seesaw, and I'm like, well, at least it has gore, because I'm like, that was a good decapitation. There's blood squirting out of the head stump. I'm like, there we go. We make up for the lack of scary with blood and guts. And yeah, it worked. I liked it. And then they have the shot where the decapitated head. Well, Anna still doesn't believe. She won't believe it's a zombie for some reason. John's like, it's a zombie. She's like, that's not a zombie. And they cut away to the severed head on the ground, and it's still alive. And it's just like, nah, 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 nah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Good. It was a good gag. Yeah.
All right. So Anna and John, they can't make it to the school, so they decide to go hide at the bowling alley. When they arrive, they find Steph and Chris are there because they'd been working on a project, and they are ambushed by zombies, bro zombies, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So then we just get this sequence where they're all fighting the zombies, and it's pretty good.
I want to know what happened to those guys, because those are the guys that Anna kicks out the night before at the bar. So obviously, well, okay, so they got zombied up at some point. It's like Day of the Dead. No, it's like Dawn of the Dead, where they say that all these people who go back to the mall as zombies, it's because they're holding on to some fragment. There's like some fragment memory. So they go back and do the stuff they do. So these guys are like, well, we go drink beer and bowl. So that's why they went back to the bowling alley.
What's most important to them.
And because our movie needed some zombies to get wrecked. So yeah.
And wreck them they do, because they have some like insane kills. They've got so I wrote them down. They've got one where like they use 2 bowling balls and they smash his head in. They like I think she's the cleaning lady. They smash her head with the toilet seat lid. And then Steph like stabs someone in the eye, I think, with the spatula.
I think it's in the mouth, because they come back to him a little bit later and he's not dead. She tried to like jam it up through the top of his mouth. She succeeded, but I'm guessing she didn't get enough brain severage to kill him. So you got to sever that brain. That's how you kill zombies.
Got to sever that brain.
But I'm going to get to the next one that I think you're going to talk about, which is, so Steph, well, Lance is, he's funny and also kind of goofy and awkward and a little dumb. But so he beats one with a bowling pin, and they're down close they're at the end of the lane. So they're by where you like throw the ball, where all the pins are when you're playing the game. And so he smacks one with a bowling pin, and then he hurts him, but he just leans down. He's like, "Can you understand me?" or something like that, giving the zombie enough time to get back at him. It's like, you don't talk to the zombies, man. But luckily, Steph is at the end with a bowling ball. She trips up the zombie. He falls, and then that mechanism that picks up and puts down the pins just chops his head off. And this was the part I'm like, that's kind of like, I mean, it's good, but I'm like, it's not great until the head comes up the ball return. I'm like, now that's a great gag. I feel like they built that entire scene around wanting to do a gag like that. Somebody was probably in a bowling alley, and they're just like, what if a severed head just rolled out of that? And they're just like, we'll use that in the movie.
Yeah.
Write some scenes about bowling alleys.
It was pretty good.
All
All
just
right.
thinking about it.
Yeah. It's They did some really good kills in that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
in this whole movie actually, but especially in that scene.
Well, like I said, I mean, because of the nature of the movie, it's kind of like a horror comedy musical. I mean, I was trying to be like, could you do like the musical aspect? Could you even do that very serious? So, if like serious and too scary, and I'm like, probably not. So, and then to make up for that lack of serious, scary stuff, you got to go for some good gore. That's usually how that's the equalizer. Good gore.
mhm. I think they made a good choice in making it less because I don't even think it's really a horror. It's kind of a horror, but not really. I think they made the right choice in going more of the comedy route for it,
Hmm.
especially after watching the zombie horror, like the zombie musical. Because like I said, that one was a lot darker, and I don't think it was like it just didn't connect as much as this one does.
Yeah.
All right. So our heroes fall asleep at the bowling alley in the ball pit, which I call total bullshit on. There's no way they were all sleeping in there.
Huh.
But I guess they're teens, so maybe they can get comfortable like that. I don't know.
Well, they probably thought it was safe, or it looked good for the movie. Haley, probably the latter.
Definitely the latter.
Hmm.
I mean, and it was a good shot, right? That they just pop right up out of the balls. Um,
Well, they need a reason for Lance again, the my favorite, but the kind of doofy one too. I
Chris,
mean,
his
have
name
we
is Chris.
passed Chris? My bad, not Lance. Where did I get Lance? I mean, did we pass by my second favorite song? Might be my first favorite song, which is where's my note? Might have ripped out my note.
Yeah, it
So
might have
what?
been around here actually.
No, so like I wrote like I mean the people are pretty optimistic, at this point. They're waiting out at the bowling alley because they're told that the army's going to clean stuff up and eventually it's going to get okay. Does this happen after? Because they eventually they're all optimistic until all of a sudden it's nighttime and they see the army is just bombing the city, which means they're like I'm guessing they're probably scared at that point because like if the army is just bombing massive areas of the city, there's might not be the best I don't know, you're guessing that there's some casualties. There's some of your friends and families who might not be zombies might be getting sacrificed in this onslaught. So they're sitting there, they're watching it. And then they lead into the song, which it's either my first or second favorite song, but like the human voice. And I
Hmm.
think it's actually why I became like a fan of Lance because I liked his musical portions of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
It's a good song.
but I think that's before, like, yeah, that happens before they all sleep in the ball pit
I think
because,
you're right. It's like at nighttime. I guess I didn't put that in my notes, but you're right. It's after they kill all the zombies, but before they go to sleep.
yeah, because then they wake up the next day and I think it's Steph is like what I keep wanting to call him Lance, but Chris. It's weird. My favorite character. I keep trying to call him Lance. I don't know. Maybe he just looks like a Lance. But so he goes to look out the window and he's just like, and somebody's like, what? He's just like, the snow melted, which I think is a funny gag. But I'm also thinking, I'm guessing they were trying to, the shoot took long enough that the snow outside melted and they needed a reason to explain why they don't have snow anymore on their low budget. Yeah,
Maybe.
they're just like, okay. But after he gasped, and they're like, the snow melted. And they're like, the army, Lance, are they here? And he's like, look for yourself. And the army's outside, and they're just all zombies, all 8 of them, because they only had 8 army zombies. But I guess now you assume that the entire army is zombies. Their bombing strategy the night before didn't work. So yeah,
All right.
no, I don't know. It was kind of like it's that whole fear of contagion pathogen thing, but I don't think I've ever seen a zombie movie where they were able to clean it up. And pretty much, yeah, no strategy works.
Right. It's actually interesting. Like this movie came out 2017, right? And then, you know, 2, 3 years later, we're all dealing with the pandemic. I felt like a lot of the lines were like eerily prescient.
Well, that was my first note because the opening scene, again, back to that, they're riding around in the car, and the radio says that this new pathogen is thought to be a super strain of the flu, which they've described um, the culprit during our recent slash current pandemic to be kind of flu like. And I wrote down topical because I know that's also the theory, except when you have a pandemic, everyone's like, oh, it'll be something cool like zombie apocalypse. And no, really just it's a sickness where a lot of people die.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
For
The
sure.
world is not as entertaining as the movies sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I'd rather be in the zombie apocalypse of Anna and the Apocalypse or in our current hellscape of COVID.
Well, we still have a yeah. I mean, life has changed, but I think you still have the structures that life will regain. I think once you're in the zombie apocalypse, it's going to be a long time before stuff is ever back the way it was, and probably won't because it's pretty hard to rebuild a society from rubble. But yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
especially when the rest of the world's societies are also in rubble. I mean, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
philosophical.
Faux show.
Yeah.
All right. So when it becomes clear that no help is on its way, as you said, the army is supposedly all zombies now. They decide to leave the bowling alley. Mainly, well, I guess the main motivation is to find safety at the school, but also Anna wants to find her dad, who she hasn't spoken with since they got into a fight the previous day.
Yep.
So they leave to go to the school. They use the ball pit, like they turn the ball pit upside down. It's like a blow up kiddie pool basically, and they turn it upside down and they use it as some kind of shield. And it kind of works at first until they make noise like idiots and attract zombies.
I thought it was like stupid. I mean, I thought it was very stupid because their legs are hanging out until they actually do what I guess the plan was if zombies come, we all drop down and we're going to be in the inflatable. The inflatable thing will be totally around us at this point, so they won't be able to get us. I actually think it worked for a while. Yeah, I mean, because it worked for a while. It kept them good until Nick showed up, right?
Yep. Some lady was like sitting on Steph's head, and I guess she was peeing on her.
And then all of a sudden, like a younger zombie, because the one sitting on her head, like Chris isn't worried about them because they're elderly zombies. He's like, they're elderly zombies. But then all of a sudden there's a young zombie. He doesn't have any legs, and he sees him, and he's crawling at him, and he's trying to get under the inflatable tub thing that they're all sitting in. And then Nick arrives.
Yep.
Oh, this was because he shows up. Are we ready to move on to this part?
Yes,
Can I
we
lead
are.
into it?
Yep. Go ahead.
So, all right. So all of a sudden, Nick shows up and basically saves all of them. Then all his buddies come flying out because they were in the store looting. And I'm like, that's topical. I'm like, they were looting before like our recent crisis, our pandemic and everything else where everyone started looting. People are still looting. Like it's Christmas and people are stealing stuff from the stores. What can you do? Smash and grab.
I haven't heard about that, but
you haven't heard about the Christmas looters, like especially in California?
No,
it's a pretty big.
Is this a real thing?
Yes. No, people are just going into stores, like normal stores, and they figured out that because most stores are not told to like confront violent.
Oh yeah, you're not supposed to confront people stealing things.
And so basically people have kind of realized that, and now there's been like massive like smash and grab incidents where people are going into like major stores and just stealing everything, and it's like, whoa. But so I was like, that's topical because I don't know, people like to loot when you get into like hard times.
Here's the real conspiracy. Anna and the Apocalypse predicts everything.
Yeah, maybe. They were probably just had like kind of a decent gauge about how people react. I mean, I think other zombie movies have done it too. I mean, that's not the first movie that ever points out that, when stuff goes wrong, people loot and stuff of that nature. But, what can you do?
Faux show. Yeah. I don't know why I said faux show, but for sure. So yeah, they meet Nick and his bros, I guess. I'm going to call them his bros. And we get into this scene where they start fighting off the zombies who were attacking Anna and her friends. and they sing Soldier at War, or Nick does, and he has like crazy high notes. It's so amazing. He's so good. And I don't know if you noticed this, but like, did you notice the weapons they picked up?
Baseball bat?
So Nick had a baseball bat. And then one of his friends, like at the beginning of the scene when these zombies are approaching, they were all like digging through the shopping carts that they had looted with. So one of his friends picked a game controller as his weapon. Another picked 2 watermelons. And then another guy picked, like he had knives like between his fingers, like Wolverine style, but like the hilt was like below the finger. So I don't know how he didn't cut himself, but so yeah, that's what we're working with here. Basically just showing off, I guess.
I'm just curious well, I guess I watched the scene. I don't know why I didn't notice what the watermelon dude did with like how he was fighting with 2 watermelons, but you know.
I don't think I noticed the first time I watched this either, but like when I watched this earlier this month, I was like, that guy is planning on using watermelons to kill these zombies. And he does.
Well, I think it was to steer into the fact that they were excited. Like, you know, more zombies showed up and they were excited, and the rest of them are like, are you excited? And like, I don't know what Anna says like that. Like, yeah, they're idiots or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're excited. So the one guy is probably like, which probably leads to him getting killed later in the movie. It's like, yeah, what is the limit of things I can use to kill a zombie? And he's just like, watermelons, man. Watermelons.
Yes.
Except it would have been cool if they did a moment where he tried to do like the bowling ball kill earlier in the movie, where the person takes the 2 bowling balls and smashes the zombie's head betwing. But he tries to do watermelons and it doesn't work, and he's like, I'm an idiot, and then the zombie gets him. Yeah, could have worked.
That'd be an interesting callback. Yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody dies in this particular scene. Nick and his friends decide to go with Anna to protect her, you know, chivalrous and all that. And we also in the scene learn sort of in an offhanded way that Nick's dad got bit because he was a soldier and he died. All right. And so while all this is happening...
Did he die? Because I thought Nick was upset that basically his dad just kind of left him to go to the base. Did they establish that the dad had died? Because I thought he was like raw, that basically it established that he has a bad relationship with his dad, and yeah, his dad just went to the base and essentially left Nick behind.
Yeah, so later, basically right before him and Anna split up, when he like distracts all those zombies so she can go find her dad while they're at the school, he says that like his dad got bit and that he had to kill his dad. Right. And his dad like said, like the last thing his dad said to him was, "Don't let me down, son. This time." Like he's always let him down, which is kind of sad. It kind of humanized Nick a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that is a good scene.
Yeah.
Brings Nick back to it.
So while all that's happening, Lisa and Tony, so, you know, Tony is Anna's dad, are taking care of Chris's grandmother because she's experiencing heart trouble because she's an old lady. And then everyone decides to leave, even though Mr. Savage wants them to stay. And Mr. Savage is like loving the whole situation of having all these people in this school basically under his control. So when they decide to leave, that's when he starts to like really get unhinged. So back to Anna's group. So Anna's group, they decide to cut through an indoor Christmas tree lot, which I think is in like a strip mall, in order to get to the school before it gets dark. And John basically tells Anna like he's glad that she's not going to be able to leave. And that's when she says that heartbreaking line, you know, "You're my best friend, Chris. You're my best friend." Yep. Only gonna ever be friends.
Friend zone.
And it's very sad, and you can tell he's kind of crushed. And this is also like right before they go in, this is when Anna picks up that iconic like candy cane steak. I don't know like what kind of steak needs like that sharp of an end to it, but this one has like Buffy the Vampire Slayer style.
Well, if you want to jam it down in the ground, I think it had practical, well, realistic design because if you needed to jam that thing down into the ground, it's going to need a point.
I think you'd really have to.
Point.
That's so thick, though. I think you'd really have to like hammer it down. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So inside the Christmas tree lot, they are quickly overcome by a horde of zombies. Nick's friends die, and like one of 3 scenes in this movie that made me like almost cry. John is bitten, and like you just see like he gets bitten, and then like he and Anna like both look at it, and like they're both just like shocked and like devastated. It's like so sad. And then they got this horde of zombies coming at them, and John like uses his body as a shield. He wraps himself around her and then like pulls her out of the zombies and then basically sacrifices himself. It's so sad. And then so all the others, like Anna's trying to go back and help him, right? But all the others like convince her she has to go find her dad. And then she just goes into like berserker mode and starts killing zombies.
Sure.
Including a Santa zombie.
Yep. I seed it. She killed the Santa. What can you do? Maybe she thought he was Satan.
Maybe he was Satan. Maybe this was his doing.
Could be. Fan theory.
Yep. They arrive at the school to find Mr. Savage eating his Christmas dinner. He lures them into the cafeteria by saying that their parents are there, but they're not. Instead, it's filled with zombies, and he locks them in and provokes the zombies to attack. And then we get his like the villain number, "Nothing's Gonna Stop Me Now," which is very catchy, but not one of my favorite songs in this movie. But it really does do like a good job of showing just how much he's lost it, you know?
Yeah.
So they escape the zombies. They split up, you know, Steph, Chris, and Lisa are all going to go find Steph's car keys. Well, I guess they kind of split up and then they go find Lisa. She's, you know, hiding in a closet with Chris's grandma. But his grandma is dead. Unfortunately, she died from her heart condition. And, you know, Chris basically says, at least she didn't turn into one of those things, which I feel like they didn't really give Gran the proper amount of sorrow that she needed, but you know, it's probably better this way.
Probably.
And then you do get like a heartwarming moment between Chris and Steph where, you know, she's always been kind of a misfit. She's not really in this group, but he says like, well, at least you have us because, you know, her family is off in Mexico and who knows where her girlfriend is. And I think like what this movie does really well is like all the characters, they have such good chemistry and you can tell that they like really care about each other.
Yeah.
And then we get to the scene, the infamous dildo scene. Steph goes to find her keys in the lost and found, or, you know, Mr. Savage's stash. And she finds her keys, but she also finds that dildo and turns it on and drops it. And all the zombies start coming after her. And then Chris and Lisa try to save her. And they notice that the zombies are sort of attracted to like shiny things or, you know, I guess the TV as well. And so they start like shaking the tinsel at them. I thought that was funny. But so they end up saving Steph, but in the process, they do get bitten. And then you get another sort of heartwarming scene where like Chris is showing his project, which is basically just images of his friends. And him and Lisa like hug, and they've both been bitten. So at least they get to be together.
And then they turn into zombies.
They do turn into zombies. They don't really show anybody turn into a zombie though. They show them really as zombies, but not the transformation.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we're jumping the gun, but then the end of the movie, they show most of the people who've turned into zombies, and one is Chris and Lisa, and they pass by and they reach out their hands and touch each other, which leads you to believe that I guess there probably is a bit of them left in there. So, yeah.
They do kind of show like everyone who's died, like even Chris, right? He repeats that motion of turning his Christmas shirt on so that it's blinking.
Yep.
So I think you're right. I think there is a little evidence for that.
Which I don't know, I guess would lean to the fan theory that maybe there could be a cure because I don't know, Anna says maybe that's what the sequel would have been. I don't know if this movie made enough money to make a sequel, but the dad said something like Anna's to her dad when her dad is bit. It's like they have to be working on a cure, and then he's like there's not enough time. But the fact that you see them all there and they're still kind of normal, well, not normal, but they're showing like aspects of who they really are underneath the zombie. Fan theory that maybe number 2 would have been about them finding the cure and saving their friends.
I'd watch it.
I'd write it, but they probably wouldn't let me. I could do a fan version.
There you go.
Yep.
All right. So while searching for Anna's dad, Nick tells Anna that he did have, like we talked about this earlier, that he did have to kill his dad and that he regretted doing it. And then so they sort of have this heartfelt moment because they resolve whatever tensions they had, about sleeping together and then him ignoring her, whatever was going on. And then they are separated and Nick basically like attracts all the zombies so that Anna can go find her dad. And I like as she's leaving, like you hear him start to sing Soldier at War by himself. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Maybe also a little narcissistic, but I think that's his character.
Yeah, I think it's true to character for sure.
Yep.
And then we get that final scene. Anna goes and finds her dad in the auditorium. Mr. Savage has him tied up with tinsel and Christmas lights on stage. And then they sing basically this duet, like One Hell of a Show. It's a pretty good song. It's not as good as some of the others, but I do like some of the back and forth they have. Like she's like, you're losing your mind and it's sad, man. I just like it.
Yep.
Anna makes it through all the zombies. She jumps up on stage, saves her dad, but we learn that he's been bitten by a zombie. And she now has to say goodbye. And this is like the second time I started crying. I didn't actually cry, but I teared up.
Don't lie to me, Haley.
I didn't cry. There's one part where like maybe like an actual tear rolled down my cheek, and we'll get to that in a minute.
There's no shame to cry in movies, Haley. Ain't no shame.
I know. I don't want to lie and say I didn't cry, or I did cry when I didn't.
For sure.
Either of them.
Well, I have a buddy who'd do that. He'd be like, "Oh, I cried during that movie." I'm like, "No, you didn't. I was there."
Maybe he just hit it really well. Maybe he's like, I have something in my eye and is like brushing those tears away.
Well, then he wouldn't have said he did later.
That's true. So Anna leaves her dad. It's so sad. But she and Nick make it onto the parking lot and they're met with too many zombies to be able to escape, which I don't know, sort of the zombie logic is kind of weird in this movie. Like, so in the auditorium, Anna is able to fight off all these zombies by herself. And there's, 20 or 30 zombies in there. Nick is able to fight off, like 20 zombies by himself. And it seems like they would be able to get out of this little situation they're in. The zombies aren't too close. They might not even have really hurt them very much.
Yeah, I had that thought too, that it seemed a little easier. They'd gotten out of stuff like that before. I think that was just probably they didn't have enough extras to execute this moment of, because you could have had a big enough mob of zombies surrounding them to do what they wanted, but I just think they probably didn't have enough zombies to do, so they just kind of had to do their best. And yeah, I had the thought too. I guess I just went with it at a certain point when I'm like, well, obviously they're worried, so they must be in trouble.
Right.
And then Steph comes rolling out with her car. I guess you should have known earlier in the film when Savage took her keys that car was probably going to come back at some point, but she got her car and rolls up, runs over some zombies. No, she didn't run over any zombies, does she?
Not at that point, no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, she rolls up and says some line about, what line does she say? Something about saving the day.
She goes, boom, saved your lives.
Yep, that was it.
Love it. I do love the song that Anna sings. And actually they cut this part out, but in the final cut of the movie, they have her singing it by herself. But in the festival cut of the movie, it was a duet with her dad. So they would like, cut back and forth between her and him. He was still in the auditorium. And then we get to like the saddest point in the movie where like he's holding his cell phone looking at her picture. And like you can see like that's the last thing he wants to see before he turns into a zombie. And that just makes me so like I'm tearing up now just talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so good. It was so sad.
Yeah. Yep, it was during the montage where you see Lance and Lisa, they're zombies, they touch each other. That happens with him. You see John turning his Christmas tree t-shirt on and off. And then you jump to the car with them, right? And they're it's supposed to be that riding off into the sunset moment, except they have that montage establishes everything that they kind of lost. Mm-hmm. And now it's just her and Nick, who she didn't expect to be with, and Steph, and I think they ask what to do next. But you can tell, they're kind of like, what to do next. Oddly enough, the only one who seems like kind of like happy is Steph. Like the other two are like, this is like sad and tragic. And she's just like, I was alone before. Or maybe that was my reading of it.
But now you guys are stuck with me. Yeah, you can see she's kind of gained like friends and everyone else has kind of lost people.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Like when you think about it, the only people who survived are the two people who like actually wanted something. So, Steph wants to be a journalist basically. And then Anna just wants to leave. And then, the people who were trying to keep things the way they are, John and Tony, they both die. And I don't know why Nick gets to survive. Subversion, I suppose.
Well, I think it was that whole part about kind of what tragedy is and the unexpected nature of it. That was my reading of why this group of characters, because I don't know. I didn't necessarily think, like, if you showed me all those characters, I don't know. I think the final three I would have bet on would have been Anna, Steph, and John. John before Anna, because John's the secondary lead. John's the first one who gets taken out. They take the secondary lead out basically at the moment of the film where I told you, I'm like, they're not going to kill any of these main characters, are they? Or I mean, like, they're not going to kill any of them, was the vibe I was getting just by the way the movie was playing out. And then all of a sudden, after I thought that, they take out the secondary lead, and then it just starts going kind of random. And I just think it kind of leans into that aspect of tragedy and kind of like, yeah, you don't really know how stuff is going to shake up. I mean, the bully might end up surviving. Kind of like the third secondary weird girl ends up surviving, and yeah. And that is what I thought.
That's true. Yeah. I also remember like the first time I watched this, I was very shocked when John got bit. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, they're going there,
Mm-hmm. Yep, they did it, and they did it. And is that the last moment of the film? Them riding off into the sunset?
Yep. Then Steph asks where to, and she says it to Nick, which I think is weird. I think it would have been better if she'd asked Anna. It's kind of weird.
I think she I thought she asked the whole car, but then she smiles again, kind of like, I don't know, something not quite right with Steph. She likes the new world. She likes the apocalypse,
I guess. No. All right. So we should probably wrap up. I think we kind of went through our favorite scenes, favorite songs. Like my favorite scene was Hollywood Ending. And my favorite song would either be Breakaway or Hollywood Ending. What about you?
Cool. Yeah, my favorite song, either Human Voice or Breakaway. And I don't know, probably the snowman getting decapitated or the, I like those gore moments, the snowman getting decapitated or the scene where the severed head comes out of the ball return at the bowling alley. Those are my favorite moments. Those are the moments that I'm like, maybe there could have been more of that, in all honesty. Just go full gore with it. And that was kind of, what I thought. It was pretty good. Yeah. Overall, it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed watching it. I didn't expect it to be a musical at first when the movie started playing. All of a sudden, like, a musical broke out. I'm like, oh, it's a musical. And like, it's...
You didn't know this was a musical?
No, I didn't know anything about it going in. And then, I mean, it reminded me a little bit of like Edgar Wright movies. It had that kind of like, like the little bit of satirical humor and stuff like that. And, comedy, gore, zombies, Christmas, and the music. And yeah, it's pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I loved it. I I definitely don't think this movie is scary, and I don't even know if I'd say it's horror. Um, it's kind of its own thing. Like, I just think it's a good movie, and I think everyone should watch it.
Cool. I think that's a good final message for people.
Yep. Watch this movie.
Watch this movie. All right, guys. You were listening to the Dukes of Horror podcast. I'm Screw Loose, the filmmaker from Screw Loose Films.
And I'm H.H. Duke, the horror author.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.